George Kilpatrick, inspiration for the nation, celebrating people we feel good about. Charles Anderson is a community icon. Here's a brother who was a pioneer in television back in the days. Most of y'all don't remember this. Black on Black on WCNY TV, producing insight, the power or act of delving into a situation. That's just the TV part. Then, of course, working within the Syracuse City School District, elected official, first elected to the Syracuse Common Council 4th District. And that's when he and I connected back in the day where I was a treasurer of the Charles Anderson campaign. And I did that for a few years. And that's how I got my feet wet in the political arena back in the day. But Charles, more than anything, has been someone, and also was one of the lead sponsors of legislation that protected LGBTQ rights in this community, among other things. I'm just cherry picking things. He's going to give us all the details about that. And then continues. This is the thing that I said this to Charles the other night. We were both at a lead paint exposure forum, which I did not know had such a tremendous impact on our community, especially in Syracuse. Now, I've known about the problem of lead paint, but I didn't realize how pervasive a problem it was and the impact that it's had on families. We'll be talking about that in subsequent shows here on Inspiration for the Nation to make you aware of this pervasive issue. But the brother's still working, right? You know, you might say his time has come, but nah, this brother is still working out here in these streets. Paul Robeson Performing Arts Company, the 100 Black Men of Syracuse, one of the founding, not the founders, but one of the first charter members, I'm going to say, of the 100 Black Men in Syracuse, and also the Pan-African Association, Paul Robeson Performing Arts, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Charles Anderson, welcome to Inspiration for the Nation. And I know that's just some of the stuff you do in the community. Good to see you, my brother.
It's been a very busy week.
Yes, it has been.
Year so far.
So I wanted you to share with me your desire, what you've been doing and the legacy. How would you describe the work that you've been doing in the community? And let's talk about some of that work.
Well, I think it started because I was in the Peace Corps in Ethiopia for 3 years. And then when I came back, my brother lived here. So I came back to Syracuse.
Yeah.
I'll be here for a little while, then I'll be gone. But that was in 1967, and I'm still here. So I think leading up to that, the experience in the Peace Corps was very excellent for me because I was in a country I'd never been in before. I was in the city, Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. When I was choosing for the Peace Corps, I had chose Costa Rica. South America. And then when I got the appointment, it was in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. And I said, that's interesting. But I had a chance to be there for 2 years. And then I decided to go back for the 3rd year.
Mm-hmm.
That's where I met my wife. And so many of my students, eventually came here to America. And when I look back on that, some of my students now are in their 60s. And I laugh because the time has gone by so quickly. I can't even believe that it's been that much time.
Now, you grew up in Virginia, correct?
Yeah. In Bedford, everything was segregated. I went to a Black school with all Black teachers. And when I graduated, in 1956, it was still segregated. So I grew up in an atmosphere of, in Virginia, in Bedford, where everything was segregated. When you got on the bus, you had to go back to the back, and I had a chance to experience all of that growing up.
You were
School, it
you
was
were
all back, yeah.
yeah, and what is I don't think I've asked this many people, but like you say it just as if that's you just had to do that, but how did you feel in that moment? Did you feel any kind of way, or did you just feel like, oh, we got to go in the back? And how did your parents explain that to you? Or that's just the way it was, so that's just what you did?
Well, that's just the way it was. And of course, I didn't like it because, I'd gone to college, in Detroit, where I didn't have to deal with that. But when I came back to Bedford, everything was still segregated. And it was just hard, doing that, experiencing life in Detroit, where it wasn't like that. And, because I was busy, trying to do my, to get out of high school, where I graduated as valedictorian, then I had to decide, where do I want to go from here? Do I want to go to Virginia State or Morehouse? Because I had an opportunity to go to Morehouse. And I said that I would like to see how it is out of the South. So I ended up going to the University of Detroit. I have a lot of relatives there. And that's how I got out of the South. But, when I was growing up, when I was in high school, I went to New Jersey, Atlantic City to work, to make money when I was in high school. So that gave me an opportunity to see life in a different situation, because in New Jersey and Atlantic City, there was no segregation, and you met people from all over the country there. And that was a tremendous help to be able to go there and experience that.
Well, I'm laughing when I think when you say you went to Detroit, because Detroit is black too. So just in case, I know it was integrated, but what's that street in Detroit? 8 Mile, right? Isn't that the kind of like, isn't that the demarcation of?
Yeah. Well, see, I went to University of Detroit, and that was right at 6 Mile.
6 Mile, okay, right.
But experience too. It
Yeah,
was interesting you go into Detroit because there were so few Black students,
at the U of D.
Yeah, at U of D, and I felt kind of honored to be
In the middle of all of that blackness.
Yeah. And going to university where very few Blacks were going, That was a good experience, though.
I mean, but Wayne State, would more African Americans go to Wayne State?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wayne State was a little different because, University of Detroit is a Catholic school.
Oh, okay. Like Lemoyne or Jesuit, right? Right. Like Lemoyne in many ways. Wow. Talking to Charles Anderson. Charles Anderson, icon in our community, continuing to work. Like usually Charles, but people in their 80s, right? Not to say that they don't slow down. I mean, look, Maxine Waters is still working. A lot of people are still on the case. So I guess talk about that, if you will, and how that shows up, if you will.
Well, when I look at the calendar and it's October 22nd, 1985. I'll be 85.
Hold on a second.
Hold on a second. 1984.
Hold on a second, Charles.
Yeah. Yeah. Months away from being 85, this age, I look at that and I said, are you kidding me? Because the time has gone by so fast. And, as you get older, you're supposed to retire, but I'm as busy as I've ever been, being in 3 organizations, taking care of my wife. My son helps me a great deal because he's here with me, and being very active in the community, I think, is very important because otherwise, I'd be sitting at home, and I don't think that's good.
Mm-hmm.
As you age, it's better to keep busy doing things that you feel are important.
What do you think is the motivating drive? So you go to Ethiopia, you spend 2 years, and so now you're seeing one of the historic nations in the world, right? And black folk, I call them black folk, So what was that like, one of Ethiopia's in the Bible, for crying out loud. I mean, it's a historic, one of the first where some of the first people are been identified.
It was great being there because Haile Selassie was the emperor when I was there, and I had to travel practically over the whole country during the 3 years I was there. It was very beautiful. The people, accepted you because until I opened my mouth, they didn't even know I was an American. They just thought I was a part of the community.
Mm-hmm.
That was a good feeling, because I was teaching students in elementary and like middle school there for the 3 years I was there, and I was able to do television show while I was there in Ethiopia. So it was a fantastic opportunity to be in a different place, make an impression, because when I was there, unless I went up and told people I was from America or opened my mouth,
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't speaking American, then they would ask, are you from Ethiopia? And I would have to tell them I was from America. But it was though you just fit it right in, unless you open your mouth and you weren't speaking Amharic, then that, made people aware that you were not Ethiopian. But it was fantastic being there and teaching the students, having a chance to travel all over the country, see how beautiful it was, and sometimes how difficult it is for people who don't have money or not rich. But I think that's even here. If you're poor, you're in a whole different situation than if you, are middle class or rich.
After your stint in the Peace Corps, did you go back, and how often, if you did?
Yeah, I went back once, and then my future wife came over, I think in the 70s, and we got married here. But that was just a couple of years after I had left the Peace Corps. And I haven't had a chance to get back, since the 70s.
Mm-hmm.
So I would like to go back. Everybody tell me I wouldn't know the place. And I've seen pictures and I can't recognize,
Well,
So
I'm wondering.
at Kilo,
Yeah, I
the
wonder how.
airport,
Say that again.
and the airport
Yeah, yeah.
is so different.
Well, Charles, we're talking Charles Anderson, activist in the community, active in continuing to be active, well into his 80s, because that's the work that he's been inspired to do. So you come back to the U.S., you inspired by the TV show there. You worked in education with the Syracuse City School District, but you also, teaching and education has always been a part of your life. And then back in the 60s, you did a TV show on WCNY, or was it the 70s? Tell me about Black on Black.
Yeah, let me see. Black on Black. I did, I'm looking at my thing here at, yeah, it was on PBS, the station here that everybody is aware of. And I had the show there for quite a while, Black on Black. And after that, I did a show on Channel 9 called Insight.
The power or act of delving into a situation.
Oh, you
Da-da-da. Da-da. Earth, Wind, and Fire. Da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da.
My goodness. And that was a long time. And that at the same time, I think I was on the, the Syracuse Common Council, being the 4th District representative from 1986 to 1997.
Wow, wow.
Representing the 4th Council District. And I think I may have been like the first, maybe the 3rd person on the Syracuse Common Council.
Right, right.
Sidney Johnson was on there.
Sidney Johnson was the first, yes. And he was also superintendent of schools, wasn't he?
Right.
Yeah.
And I think he was superintendent when I was a part of the school district.
Right.
The school district about 27 years.
You tell me about your interest in the LGBTQ legislation that you were really pioneering at that time.
Yeah, because I had run into a lot of my friends, Nancy Rhodes, and quite a few people I had known, and they were interested because they came to me and they thought that there should be some legislation, and they was looking for someone who would be willing to sponsor it. So I got to know them quite well, and we presented the legislation, and remarkably, it passed.
What was the legislation called? I remember when you were holding hearings and conversations about it. What was it called?
Let me see. I'm looking here. The Fair Practices Ordinance.
And what was the issues back then? What was the LGBT community fighting for that they didn't have then?
Yeah, it was to prevent discrimination against gay and lesbian people in the Syracuse area of housing, employment, and public accommodations.
Because prior to that, and this is within the city of Syracuse, and prior to that, they didn't have those protections.
Sure didn't.
Under the law, right?
Yep. And that was historic. And just like the Citizen Review Board.
You were very active in about getting that passed as well.
And believe it or not, this month, they were celebrating the 30th anniversary of the Citizen Review Board.
I remember. I remember. We had Raynette Relaford on the program talking about the 30th anniversary because they had the event. You're right. Earlier this month they did that. Yeah.
So,
or last month.
On the council, those were the two very important pieces of legislation, and they are still in operation. And I had to sit back, and when they were telling me it was 30 years, I had to scratch my head and say, has it been that long?
Why do you stay active? And you said it's not just about being busy. What's at the root of your activism? Because and Charles, here's the thing: you're not gonna have the megaphone, but you're gonna show up and do the work. Talk to me about the different strategy that you apply. So tell me why you do it and your way of doing it.
I don't know. I think even when I was in high school and in college, I was always in activities that were going on, and I think that had an impression on me. So once I got out of college and got my master's degree from Syracuse University, after that, I went into the Peace Corps. And I think that had a tremendous effect on me, being able to serve people and be a part of another country. To when I come back here, I just wanted to continue, to work and be in organizations and do things in the community and be a voice for the people. And that's why the television show that I had was so important. It was like among the first African-American shows, on PBS here locally. And that was a way of getting community, to come in, people in the community and in organizations to come on the show, talk about, what they're doing. And it was giving them an opportunity that they hadn't had before. And then we went from there to Channel 9. And we were on there for 15 years, and it gave me a chance to reach out into the community and the organizations and have the people come in and present what they're doing in the community. And that was very important. I can't hear him. I know what the problem is. I can't hear anything.
So that's why I think it's important. I think it's important. I was thinking about Jackie Robinson and Jackie Robinson's legacy and the shows that she did coming after Dennis. Well, first of all, Jackie was on for 35 years as an anchor in various positions, reporter, anchor, and then lead anchor after a while. And then she took over for Dennis. Dennis did the News and Views Black Perspective. And then she took it over and did City Scene.
Yeah.
And I think that had a more broader perspective. I think about you, and that's on the TV side. And then I obviously did my little stint on WCNY. So I think I'm just following you along. And then I helped you as an intern and producer on Insight. The year that I remember, and remember Karen Dixon. Now Karen Dixon Cherubin. And I think I may have done one or two shows, but then I also did Straight to the Source on WTVH back in the day. So
that was important.
And then you look at all of the journalists of today doing the voices: Ken Jackson, Kofi Quay, Layman Herring, Willie Morgan, and Dr. Robert Pritchard, right? All of those folks that
they were really involved.
Right. They were really involved in the work of telling our stories. And I think, Charles, thinking about that, just putting that in perspective, why you do it is, I think, why many of us do it is we want to make sure that the community voices are amplified. And you've been a part of a number of organizations. Right now, 100 Black Men, Paul Robeson, and the Pan-African Association of Central New York. What other organizations have you been involved in over the years?
Well, let me have to look at my resume here and go back. Well, of course, I was a delegate to the National Democratic Convention that was held in Atlanta in 1988. I was a Jesse Jackson delegate to that. And then in 1992, I was a William Jefferson Clinton delegate to the National Democratic Convention in New York City. So I had a chance to get involved in that, and also served as co-chair of the Rainbow Coalition. Coalition for Quality Education, always trying to, be involved in things that were happening in the community. And that has, been helpful in keeping me involved and wanting to continue, to be involved in things in the community.
What do you want your legacy to be?
Just that anybody who's interested in doing things in the community, it's wide open. There are so many things that we need to be doing, and we just need people who are willing to, take the time, join different organizations and really work for them and try to accomplish some of the things that we need in the community.
We forgot to say that you're also an actor. Charles, I think about the work that you do, and I'm going to leave you with this. And this is your signature line role. You know what I'm getting ready to say, right? We ain't what? Can you finish the sentence? I'm going to see if I'm on it or not.
Yeah, go ahead and do it.
We ain't no ways tired.
Yeah. Come too far from where we started from. No one told us the road would be easy, but we haven't come this far to leave it now. And that's from James. I forgot his, what was his name? James Cleveland. Yeah.
James Cleveland. Charles Anderson. Living legacy. I mean, that's what I'm going to call this. I said icon at first, but now I'm going to say living legacy. Still doing the work. Still doing the work. 85 years young. What month is this going to be? August?
October 22nd.
October 22nd. 85 years old. So brother's 84, doing the work. At the meetings, organizing committees. This brother continues to do the work. Charles, I said to you that I wanted to honor your work. I am proud of you, and I want you to know that you are a living legacy here on Inspiration for the Nation. You are what we call people that we feel good about. Inspiration for the Nation.
Thank you so much.